It's the most wonderful time of the year. 16 teams will be fighting and goal lamps are lighting. Yes, be of good cheer. It's the Stanley Cup playoffs are here. Hallelujah! The greatest 8 weeks in sports starts in just over 16 hours. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, puckheads. And even though these guys, sadly, are not part of the festivities, it still doesn't mean it's going to be a fun 2 months for this proud puckhead. Now, for those of you who have been living under a rock, let me explain the beauty, the magnificence, the prestige that is the Stanley Cup playoffs. As I said before, the greatest 8 weeks in hockey. They start from mid-April to around mid-June. 16 teams, that's the format, 16 teams, all fighting for the greatest trophy in all of sports, Lord Stanley's Cup. And the format, of course, the current format is similar to the old divisional playoff format that lasted throughout the 70s until 1993. Back then, it was the top 4 teams of each division made it, totaling 16 teams in all. And the first 2 rounds were strictly divisional, the divisional semifinals and the finals. Of course, this was back, of course, during the old days of the Adams, Patrick, Norris, and Smythe divisions. We all remember those. Of course, I was very little when I was very little and was born into like the last years of the of that format. The NHL switched to geographical names in 1993 when I was 8 years old, and they stopped the whole divisional playoff thing. And but they brought it back in a way in 2013. It's 4 divisions just like it was then. The geographical names stick, and only this time, instead of the top 4 in each division get in, the top 3 teams get automatic bids, totaling 6 teams in each conference, 12 teams total. The final 2 playoff spots in each each conference, are decided via a wild card format. This is regardless of division. Out of the remaining 8 teams in the West and the remaining 10 teams in the East, the top 2 point totals get in. This is regardless of division. So you can have we got both wild cards come from the same division. This has happened before, mostly with the Central, but this year it's not just the Central. The Metropolitan Division has both the wild cards in Eastern Conference. First, I'll elaborate on how the last few teams got what they were. First, the tragic tale involving the Avalanche. It was the Avalanche's regulation loss last Tuesday to the Nashville Predators that got the Wild into the playoffs, the last spot in the West. The Philadelphia Flyers clinched on the penultimate day of the season, this past Saturday, when Boston got clobbered at home by the Senators. That loss clinched 3rd place in the Atlantic for Detroit, so that put them in. Before I continue, let me just say, as much as I can't stand the Red Wings, I just have to respect 25 straight years of being in the playoffs. That's something. That's unprecedented. There are teams that have gone half that length without getting in. The poor Oilers haven't been to the playoffs since they came close to win the Cup in 2006. But yeah, back to how Philadelphia get it. Yeah, the Boston's regulation loss clinched 3rd place for the Red Wings, put them in, leaving 1 spot left. The Flyers defeated the Penguins 3-1 in their game, and that gave them the last spot. And for the 2nd straight year, the Boston Bruins, who played for the Stanley Cup in 2013 and won the President's Trophy in 2014 were eliminated back-to-back years. I sense Carter Julian's head being on the chopping block and being lopped off, because the boss is not going to stand for that. So anyway, enough. There was still. And of course, Sunday had the 2 postponed games played with implications. Because the Islanders lost in regulation, the Rangers became a top 3 team. The Islanders were reduced to a wild card. It was Philadelphia, the other wild card, who beat them. The Ducks win over Washington on the road gave them the Pacific Division, and so here are the matchups for the division semifinals. Yes, I'm calling it that. That's what they were originally going to call. That's what they originally called the first 2 rounds when this format started in 2013. They were originally called the division semifinals and the finals. In March 2014, it was changed to the first round and second round. But I like the division semifinals name better. That's just me being paying too much attention to detail. But anyway, the division semifinals, which I will review once the final horn sounds of the first round. For the first time in this format, the East has a crossover team. It will be the Islanders crossing over from the Metropolitan to the Atlantic portion of the playoffs. They will face off against the team that won the division, the Florida Panthers. That's the 1-4 matchup in the Atlantic portion. The 2-3 matchup is a rematch of last year's first round matchup, the Lightning versus the Red Wings. It was the Lightning. In that series last year, the Lightning beat the Wings in 7 games en route to their run to the Stanley Cup Final. And that's the Atlantic. The Metropolitan will feature the top-seeded Washington Capitals. They're going to play against the Philadelphia Flyers, the last team to get in. That should be a very intriguing matchup, mainly because of the history involved. But in the other Metropolitan semifinal matchup, it's the Penguins versus the Rangers. 2 teams who are sick of each other enough in the regular season. This is the 3rd straight year they're made the playoffs, and the Rangers won the last 2 meetings. The Rangers beat the Penguins in the Metropolitan Finals in 2014. This was en route to their run to the Stanley Cup Final that year, and in the first round, the Rangers beat the Penguins in 5 games. The Penguins have the home ice. They finished second in the Metropolitan after being in the wild card standings for a good bit. They moved up past the New York teams and finished a distant second behind Washington. So that's the eastern half. For the western half, for the 3rd year in a row, both wild cards in the Central, that beastly Central Division. Nashville and Minnesota are the 2 wild cards. Nashville is the crossover team. They move to the Pacific half. They're going to face the Anaheim Ducks, who won the Pacific Division the last day of the season. And the other Pacific semifinal matchup, Kings Sharks. We all remember 2 years ago. We all remember the Kings became I think it was the 4th team in NHL history to come back from a 3-0 deficit and win the series. They lost the first 3 games, and in Game 7, San Jose scored first. I remember that vividly. San Jose scored the first goal, and the Kings scored the next 5. So they took care of business. That led the Kings to continue winning en route to their 2nd Stanley Cup, which they won in 5 games over the Rangers in 2014. So that's the Pacific. And the Central, the Dallas Stars, who won the division, they'll be facing off against the Minnesota Wild. The Minnesota Wild are the only wild card team since this format started. They're the only wild card team to win a playoff series. It's like winning the Central was a curse. The last 2 Central Division champions got beat by the Wild in the playoffs. In 2014, it was the Avalanche. Last year, it was the Blues. This year, the Stars have that. Are they going to break the curse? Or are the Wild going to beat them up? We shall see. And the other Central Division semifinal, is the Blues and Blackhawks. The Blues have home ice just like they did 2 years ago, but it was the Blackhawks who won that series in 2014. That should all 8 series should be gritty. It should be close, with the exception of I think the Ducks series is going to be short. The Ducks should probably beat Nashville in 5, but I sense a few Game 7s happening here. So those are the first round matchups, and the chase for this begins in just a number of hours. The best looking trophy in sports, Lord Stanley's Cup. The chase begins later on in the afternoon. The afternoon here. It's the evening in the East Coast, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, when the puck drops in St. Pete. Was it Tampa, or do they actually play Tampa? I think it's in Tampa. Let's just say Tampa. For Game 1 between the Wings and Lightning, and it's 3 game 1s later on today, and so that is my welcome to the playoffs video. It's like I said, it's all for this. Something that the Avalanche had twice. Hold on. It's got it back up again. It's all for this. Something the Avalanche have held twice. Something the Montreal Canadiens have had 24 times. And something the Vancouver Canucks will never, ever see. So with that, I say seatbelts won't be enough. Seatbelts will be enough. Especially with the best part of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The overtimes. And yes, overtimes plural. The beautiful thing about the Stanley Cup playoffs is the overtime. In the regular season, it used to be 4-on-4, or it's 3-on-3 hockey. 5 minutes, then a shootout. No more shootouts. No. The Kevin Thomas say no. No more shootouts. No shootouts here. Overtime, 5-on-5. 20-minute periods. Polarization if necessary, and trust me, it will be. Double overtime, triple, quadruple. I once saw a 5 overtime game between the Flyers and Penguins back in 2000. I'll never forget that. And of course, March 25th, 1936. Actually, it started on March 24th and ended on March 25th. Every puckhead should know this. The longest game ever played in NHL history, 6 overtimes. The Montreal Maroons and the Detroit Red Wings ended 1-0 with 3.5 minutes left in the 6th overtime. And sextuple overtime, that's the word for 6. So, as I said, seatbelts won't be enough. So just enjoy the ride and pray you enjoy it safely. Until then, I'll be back with my review of the division semifinals once the final game ends. So until then, good day to you, my fellow puckheads, because the Stanley Cup playoffs are here.